to push Pentagon, to promote war. Tommy Franks paid $550,000 to promote war. And then you read the mainstream article, I don't remember where it was from, that was like 4 or 5 years ago, and it says in there, but I pegged it. I said, he's on payroll. I mean, who isn't with these guys, And then it came out that all these former generals were on payroll, and we're being given briefings, and that weird tape with them with Rumsfeld going, without another 9/11, they're not going to go along with another war. God, 9/11 was great. Just wish we could have another one. Now, it sure worked out, didn't it? Yeah, they need another one. I mean, they're basically admitting what they did. It turned out they were on the payroll to go out and I'm objective, but we need martial law. I don't like it, but it's what we need. The children deserve it. Well, this Fox piece is, I'm really sorry that we may have to be forced to take shots at martial law. We need to have a debate, an orderly debate about it, but people are going to weigh this. And I saw other pieces on the news, just watching it in the coffee room and on TV, and when I was on the treadmill an hour a day, where they were just like, you got to weigh it. The world on one side, individuals' rights on the other. I think the world outweighs it. Doing these childlike. Did you find it, Tommy Franks? Tommy Franks paid. I don't see it. Somebody can find it and post it. What did you put in the search function? Let me see. Tommy Franks paid money to promote war. Just paid money by Pentagon to promote war. See if that pulls. I can't remember the exact headline. I remember the number. 545,000. I bet we posted it. Put a prisonplanet.com on the end of it. I'm going to get that up for folks. I don't want to just make that claim. How about White House paid for fake news? I mean, that's a nice headline. I'm sure that'll come up. Okay, let's see this comes up. Oh, it's driving me crazy. Just type in Pentagon paid for fake news. No. I mean, White House paid for fake news, yeah. And that'll come up. Okay, we're going to play this martial law clip, just one of many where they're promoting it and getting everybody acclimated. Is this a dry run? Is this a beta test? Obviously. I mean, we've been praying for that, but it's still a lesser of two evils. The fact is, we know what they're going to do when they really release it, or we try to rebel against the bankers totally bankrupting everything and bringing in tyranny in the name of the economic crisis. Anytime we look like we're going to start winning and getting our country back, bringing the bankers to justice, they'll stage something. Fake TV news, widespread and undisclosed. Yeah, that's Infowars.com, but click on it. It'll go to the New York Times, I believe. Click on the story itself for folks, and then that'll be a sublink. That's Center for Media and Democracy. Yeah, click on that. Let's show them the original link. And we post some of these key articles in their entirety for posterity to document them later because they tend to expunge them. Okay, let's go ahead. I'm going to come back and recap everything and call the White House after this. Let's go ahead and play the clip of Fox News and martial law. Here it is.
The World Health Organization raised now the pandemic alert for swine flu. The World Health Organization raised now the pandemic alert for swine flu, implemented quarantines and world leaders issuing travel warnings. But, of course, it could get worse.
That's right. If it becomes a pandemic, you could lose some simple rights like going to the movies. Fox News legal analyst Peter Johnson Jr. joins us live here as well. Peter, last night when the President of the United States was talking, it sounded like in his remarks, he was talking about the possibility that parents should get ready to come up with a contingency plan in case your child's school closes.
You're exactly right. And that's really been the first national mention of that issue. And I think it's important that we don't scare people. And I think an effort's been made here not to scare anyone. But people in our government have to start thinking about how, if this actually becomes a pandemic, how it's going to affect our daily life and our rights. What is a quarantine? Who decides who goes into a quarantine?
Right.
What is isolation? Who decides who gets into isolation? If I want to get out of a quarantine or isolation, do I have the ability to go to a court and get out? Will the government say to me, you must get a vaccination if one is developed?
Right.
If I don't get a vaccination, will I be quarantined? If I'm a healthcare provider, if I don't show up for work at a hospital, will I be jailed? Will I lose my license?
We thought it was simple. Either you were going to get sick or you weren't going to get sick.
It's not simple. And we as a society, the freest society in the world, have to think about the balancing between saving our lives if this pandemic comes true and the loss of liberty and the loss of rights as Americans. I think as Americans, in order to stay alive, in order to preserve our way of life, people are willing to give up and to make sacrifices. Sure. But at the same time, there needs to be an orderly discussion of what the rights are of the American people when this happens. Sure. And there's a lot of modeling that says it doesn't happen at all. Okay, so let's look at some of the examples. Sure. We're talking about closing schools, which I'm sure people would understand, closing the border to Mexico, stop us from gathering in public spaces. We mentioned movie theaters off the top. Freedom to assemble. I can think of a lot of other things like church, maybe going to the mall. Well, what about legislatures? What about the U.S. Congress? What about courts of law? What about not impaneling juries because we don't want to have public assemblies? I spoke to about an hour last night to Dr. Mark Siegel, who's an expert on the flu, and he's written a book on it. In fact, he was on our show about it. Yeah, he's a contributor here at Fox News, and he pointed out to me, he said, listen, we can't be panicking at this time. We have examples, when you go back to the 1918 flu, and there was a second wave. Well, the problem about the 1918 flu was that doctors thought it was a bacteria. Right. We didn't know it was a virus. Sure. We have the capacity now to create potentially a vaccine for the fall that contains this strain of virus. That's exactly. And so that's a big, big difference. But at the same time, we need to be thinking about how the legal landscape is going to be changing. Our governors have to be looking at this. Our president has to be looking at this. Our state legislature has to be looking at this. And this is the time for the ACLU to act. Not to detain Americans as war criminals, but to ensure that all Americans' rights are preserved. Excellent point. Very interesting points. I hadn't thought about all that stuff. Thanks, Peter. Unfortunately. Plus a possibility of martial law, but that's a whole nother conversation. Another road, not going there. It's coming out this month.
Think about it. It's perfect. Governments everywhere on the verge of falling. They're falling all over Eastern Europe. They're falling all over the planet because of the world implosion as they set up the new Bank of the World, the new carbon taxes. How do they lock down cities? How do they set up a police state? How do they ban public gatherings? How do they ban protesting? How do they grandstand as saviors? They hype up a designer flu, and it's no doubt a designer flu. They did that so when scientists who weren't part of their cabal looked at it, they would at least go, yeah, this is totally new and novel. By the way, it looks like it's an engineer. This is scary. So they can create fear and then say, oh, it's mutating in the fall. You need to take the vaccine. Boy, something special they got for you in that vaccine. Maybe it's like the syphilis for the black men. Remember, that's a government that does this type of stuff thousands of times. The atomic soldiers, Project Shad, nerve-gassing troops, radiating foster children. You better find out who the eugenicists are. Better see Endgame, Blueprint for Global Enslavement. This is their perfect excuse to get in your life. Now they have federal teams that check checkpoints on the roads and ask citizens questions. They have the Army doing it. It's not just the airports now where Homeland Security admitted. That's training. Take your shoes off. Be humiliated. Answer questions. Normal people who are law-abiding, it's about getting us used to the secret police asking us questions, living in a prison, the public schools, thumb scanning to get school lunches, drug dogs sniffing them in the morning, cameras in the classrooms and halls and many bathrooms. Living as prisoners, no tag allowed, no dodgeball, no running. Now at schools nationwide, it's almost everywhere. No hugging, no high-fiving. Prisoners in prison can high-five, even in medium security. Not your children. They're prisoners. It's for their own good. This is all about inducting us into this control grid, this scientific dictatorship. I'm going to recap all these top stories and issues here in a moment. But right now, let's go ahead and call the White House. Here is the number. We're going to call it in a moment. Call the White House, 202-456-1111. Be polite. These are just puppets. These are just actors. This is, the real government is run out of the RAND Corporation and the Council of Foreign Relations, Trilateral Commission. These big think tanks brag. They set all the real policies. The military dictatorship that works for them is based not in Virginia, not in D.C., but at Northcom. So remember, you're just calling like a group of Shakespearean actors. You're just calling a theater troupe. So don't be rude to these actors. You know, they work hard, man. They're tired. You know, they go home. Obama smokes a cigarette, maybe hits a doobie or something. He's a really good actor. He presents the script. Don't be rude. Let them know, hey, we know you're actors.